Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Can I suggest, just before we start, just to take a deep breath. Count to 6, take a deep breath in, hold for 4 and let it out. So deep breath. 3, 4, out. Just to get away from the madness and lunacy of the world at the minute.
Yes,
Get into this nice, relaxing, sacred space. Okay, chalice lighting. As we gather here this morning, we light this chalice as a symbol of our thankfulness. The chalice reminds us of the sun, the giver of life. The chalice light rises up like the power of growth and renewal in the springtime. While lighting the chalice, we give thanks for the sun, which lights and warms the earth, for the growth and renewal of nature arising from the earth, and for the earth itself, which is also the giver of life. Give thanks for spring here again with its promise ever new, with its many yellowed flowers, its bright songbirds proclaiming their presence to the world. A world darkened as ever by human folly, by war and suffering undeserved. But still, give thanks for spring, the season of hope. And a few words from Reverend Tony McNeile. I don't know if you remember Tony. He's mainly part of the Earth Spirit Network and the Unitarian system. Earth Spirit Network, pagan, whatever you want to call it. But he says this: today I played golf in glorious sunshine. The grass on the fairways was being mowed. Everywhere there were green buds showing where a week ago there'd been nothing. Not just the golf course, everywhere. The garden centre was crowded. We were there picking plants and compost to bring our garden back to life. We went to the tip with the detritus of last autumn. It was busy there too, with so many doing the same. Spring is here. The equinox will tip the balance between light and dark days into light. At this time of year, we remind ourselves that there is spirituality in nature. It calls us to assess our own lives and attitudes, and reminds us to let the dark subside and the light emerge and grow. An opening prayer. Springtime Prayer by George A. Tyger. Power of springtime, spirit of green grasses and warm breezes, goddess of creativity, of birth, of life renewed, you sing all about us at this time. The birds call your sacred name, buds burst forth with your vestment. The sun reaches higher into the sky, shining the light of this new day through the windows of your cathedral, this world. Power of springtime, forgive us our speediness and our racing before your eternal grace, that we do not see the myriad miracle world we share. Open our eyes with your warmth and our hearts with your beauty. Slow our minds with awe and wonder. Dear spirit of green grasses and warm breezes, let us find here in these moments of quiet the grace of your breath as we breathe into our bodies the spirit of spring. So more to be. And you'll find on the other side of your running order the alternative Lord's Prayer. So let us say that together. Eternal Spirit, ever present, if only we have eyes to see. We stand in awe in the presence of the universe. In its proper time, may the mystery unfurl before us. Though fettered by our earthly lives, may the depths of the Spirit be present to us. May the great gifts of the earth sustain us. May the universe forgive our faults and follies, and may we in equal measure be forgiving. May we ever turn our eyes towards the light to dispel the darkness which would engulf us. The strength of the universe is all about us. It abounds with power and glory. beyond our greatest imaginings.
This is a Song of March. With winter's footsteps in the past, and snows begin to melt at last, with longer days and shorter nights, the wayward winds of March take flight. 4 winds she holds within her grip, then hurls them from her fingertip. Her woolly, fleecy clouds of white she sets at skies of blue delight. Her wild bouts of gusty breezes roar through valleys, hills and trees. That high-pitched whistling song she sings awakens earth and flowering things. She tears a hole in heaven's sky so sun can shine and rain can cry. She gently calms as spring draws near, as blooming daffodils appear. She welcomes April showers in, then gathers up her dwindling winds. Now her long journey home begins. Knowing she'll be back this way, upon a cold, late winter's day, when nights grow short and days grow long. Listen for her whistling.
Hello, everyone. This is Political, Religious and a Touch of Pagan, an article by Claire MacDonald about Flora Britannica and May Day from the Inquirer. It is quite a long one, so I am going to shorten it a wee bit. And then again, if David needs something to fill in some time at the end, I can always go back to the bits we missed. But you can all just read it afterwards. So this is by the Reverend Claire MacDonald. In 1990, Michael Ignatieff, writing about Easter in The Observer, observed that secular societies have never succeeded in providing alternatives to religious rituals. And he pointed out that the French Revolution may have turned subjects into citizens, may have put liberté, equality and fraternité on the lintel of every school and put the monasteries to the sack. But apart from the 14th of July, it never made a dent on the old Christian calendar. My present subject is perhaps the only unquestionable dent made by a secular movement in the Christian or any other official calendar, a holiday established in not 1 or 2 countries, but in 1990, officially in 107 states. What is more, it is an occasion established not by the power of governments or conquerors, but by an entirely unofficial movement of poor men and women. I am speaking of May Day, more precisely of the 1st of May, the international festival of the working class movement, whose centenary ought to have been celebrated in 1990, because it was inaugurated in 1890. And that is from Eric Hobsbawm's Birth of a Holiday. You might be wondering why this is in our Spring Miscellany since it's April. But Claire MacDonald goes on to say, there's more than a touch of the pagan about May Day. It's the ancient festival of Beltane, and it's also an ancient celebration of fertility, Flora's holiday, the festival of Floralia in Roman times. Perhaps the astonishing eruption of workers' rights movements across Europe in 1890, the year that May Day was chosen as the workers' holiday, was because the 1st of May had such powerful pagan folk roots that seem to go deep into our DNA in the Northern Hemisphere, as the bare branches slowly spread with blossom, the darling buds of May, as Shakespeare called them. As a child, I remember going to the woods with my brother and gathering heavy, sappy armfuls of bluebells, overwhelmed by a feeling of abundant life and deep, deep colour. That undeserved, relentless beauty seemed to me then, as a child in a life in which, at school and at home, rewards were for being good, a sign that beauty simply happens, time and time again, in love, in loss, in war, and in peace. Eric Hobsbawm was a Jewish atheist, an intellectual, and a historian of the left, who died aged 95 in the year 2012. So it was to him I turned, through Google, when I wanted to find out where the origins of May Day as a workers' holiday came from. What I didn't quite expect to find was how that holiday connects to the pagan, the spiritual, and to the folk past, which is still present even in the Christian year, and to a vision of a utopian future that May Day represents. When I said there was and is a touch of the pagan in May Day, I mean that I feel it in the May Day rituals that we still have. These are rituals that celebrate the green world, the growing, flowering earth itself, traditions across Europe that go back before the Common Era. In Greece, I have gathered flowers for the Protomagia, the 1st of May month, the wreath, hung to dry on front doors and then burned on St. John's Day, midsummer, when people jump over a fire and make a wish. The pagan or the animistic tick is in the belief that these rituals are effective, that we can change the course of our lives with gathering and wishing, honouring the gods, the old gods of the earth. 1890 was an extraordinary year at the end of an extraordinary decade of industrial struggle combined with utopian hope. In many ways, the 1880s and 1890s were the original New Age, and the kinds of things we associate with modern life, such as natural fabrics and clothing, sandal wearing and vegetarianism, emerging gay consciousness, and a life that could be very different from the industrial capitalist grind of 19th century England. It was in 1890 that the magazine The New Age was founded in Leeds by A.R. Orage and Jackson Holbrook, supported financially by George Bernard Shaw. The Independent Labour Party was founded in that year, and the Labour Church. The idea of May Day as a workers' holiday took place at the crossroads of new ideas and the movement for a new life for the people. The Fellowship of the New Life, the precursor to the Fabian Society, was founded in 1883. It included socialists, pacifists and feminists, poets and animal rights activists, vegetarians and campaigners for sexual health and ecological living. They saw the possibility of a new way of living that would encompass health and nature and care for the earth, as well as a shorter working day for the people. In this heady mix, the push for May Day as a holiday arrived unintended and unplanned, not so much an invented tradition as a suddenly erupting one, as Eric Hobsbawm said, adding, "The similarity of the new socialist movement to a religious movement, even in the first heady years of May Day, to a religious revival movement with messianic expectations was obvious. So in some ways was the similarity of the body of early leaders, activists and propagandists to a priesthood, or at least to a body of lay preachers." We have an extraordinary leaflet from Charleroi, Belgium, in 1898, which reproduces what can only be described as a May Day sermon. No other word will be removed. It was drawn up by, or in the name of, 10 deputies and senators of the party Ouvrier Belge, undoubtedly atheist to a man, under the joint epigraphs "Workers of all lands unite," Karl Marx, and "Love one another," by Jesus. The iconography of flowers and the links therefore to Flora, the Roman and the pagan, and to a utopian vision of this earth connected to a sense of oneness with it, was part of this. And Hobsbawm goes on to tell us that flowers appear unselfconsciously around the stern portraits of the 7 Austrian delegates to the 1889 International Congress, distributed for the first Vienna May Day. There's more to this. I'll pause here for a short while, but I will end by a few short words from Claire MacDonald. May our May Days be many. May we, as religious liberals, find ways to make connections between justice and love, honouring those who fought for our flourishing and who decorated their banners with garlands. May we live between old stories and new, in peace and joy, born into the future by the loving hands of those who went before, who struggled to make our world new and who are always with us, this day, in this world, and for all time. And perhaps we now see why it was I wanted the flowers next to the chalice for today's service. And as a very short note, I almost feel like we should be about to go and do a chorus of Bread and Roses, but I dare say we can sing that at some point in the future. As an interesting link, there is a pub called the Bread and Roses, both in Clapham, as the home of the Workers' Beer Company, the organisation which raises funds for trade unions by sending volunteers to Glastonbury Festival. And the pub itself decamps off to the Glastonbury Festival in June, where I may well be working since I'll be there. So in an interesting link back to the workers' movement, the traditions that went before it and the traditions itself, because it's an interesting question about whether Glastonbury Festival counts as a religion. You can have fun arguing that one. The Bread and Roses itself continues its tradition at the festival, and perhaps we'll be thinking of our pagan roots as we all serve up some beer. Who knows?
Let's just have a quiet reflection, meditation. We speak to the God, the goddess, the spirit of life, the eternal. We speak to the mysterious thread that connects us one to the other and to the universe. We speak to the deep wisdom at the center of our beings. We embody the yearning of all people to touch each other more deeply, to hear each other more keenly, to see each other's joys and sorrows as our own, and know that we are not alone, unless we create solitude for ourselves. And even then, community awaits us. Out of our yearning, we have come to this community of like-minded people. May we help each other to proclaim the possibilities we see, to create the community we desire, to worship what is worthy in our lives, to teach the truth as we know it, and to serve with justice in all the ways that we can, to the end that our yearning is assuaged and our lives fulfilled in one another. Let us go now into the silence of the faith that is unique to each of us, and yet still the same. Let us be silent just for a few moments. Spirit of light and truth, grant us now to know and feel that you are present with us. Take away the veil that hides you from us. Deliver us from the worldly thoughts, the selfish desires, the narrow aims which hinder us from giving ourselves to you and entering into your peace. We thank you for all the help and strength that you have granted us, for all the sources of joy and blessing that surround our path. We thank you for the work that you have given us to do, for the truth you enable us to learn, and for all the goodness and beauty that you have revealed to us in our lives.
On Immortality by Paul M. Carnes. We are not isolated from nature. We are not isolated in our thinking. We exist and have our being in an intangible sea of thought. We live in this sea as a fish lives in water. Floating in this sea for the taking is all the wisdom of the ancients. Floating in the sea for the taking are all the aspirations of those now dead. Floating in this sea for the taking are all the creative imaginings of the world's artists and prophets. Each has a mission, a place. We all contribute to this sphere of the mind. Thus, our actions live on, deathless, through eternity.
Right one. The usual image of springtime as little lambs gambolling about in the fields, but I'm going to talk about something entirely different, goats. In particular, feral goats, not the domestic ones, because goats have always been very agile and enterprising creatures, and very liable to make an escape and and start gather together in the wild and set themselves up in little groups there. And you know, it's amazing how swiftly they grow shaggy coats to keep them weatherproof. And goats can eat, and not only eat just about anything, but thrive on it. And anyways, in the old days, I mean, the customs died out now, probably health and safety and you know, the RSPCA and cruelty to animals and that. But in the old days, the Welsh hill farmers had a custom in the springtime when the goats had dropped their kids of banding together and going up into the hills. And naturally, the adult goats were too active and got away, and they couldn't catch them. But the kids weren't so lively, and they were able to catch some of the kids and take them back down to the hill farms there. And what they did there, they built themselves a little dry stone hut, not much bigger than where I'm sitting now, with curving stone walls coming out the sides there, leaving a gap to form a gateway coming in. And what they did, each farmer would take his kid there, and he'd tether it to a post inside the hut there. And it wouldn't be long before its pitiful bleating, meh, would bring the mother scampering down from the hills to suckle it. And goats and goats are quite prolific milkers. They provide more than enough for the kids. And what the farmer does, he waits till the mother goat has got inside the little pen there. It's called cootmeen in Welsh, which is just a little cottage, and waits till the mother goat's in there. Then he nips in through the opening and catches hold of the mother goat and proceeds to milk her. And when the farmer's got a bucket of milk there, he leaves enough for her to suckle the kid, and goes back and lets her get on with the job. And when she's suckled the kid, back she goes up to the hills there and fills up again on rough grazing until the kid's ready for some more. And this was a handy way for the farmers to get a free supply of extra milk at no cost to themselves, because these were the feral goats up in the hills just feeding themselves. And there's it's a habit that's died out now, but a bit, as I say, because not only have some of the hill farms, which are marginal anyway, gone out of use, and then again, sort of like the RSPC wouldn't be too happy with the idea of depriving the kid and its mother of their company all the time. But still, in parts of Wales, you can find the ruins of particularly in derelict farms, the ruins of these little cwtiau of plural of cwt cottages. And there's even a Welsh folk song about it, which I shall not sing in its entirety. There's only 4 verses, fairly short, but it's one of these songs where the introduction is longer than the song. So I'll just do the first verse there, and in case there's any of you that don't understand the Welsh, I'll explain that. It starts off oes gafre to, oes gafre is Welsh for a nanny goat. Oes gafre to, oes heb ei godro, and that means sort of, is there any goats yet? Any goats still left to milk? And then ar y creigiau gairon mair hen afron cwdo. Up on the crags there's still an old goat there to gather in there. And then it goes on the different colours of the goats. And in the first verse, it's Gareth Wen, the white goat. Nothing to do with the English word wen. In Welsh, wen is just the mutated form of Gwen, which is feminine form for white. And then it goes on to Gafr Lee, Gafr Las, and finally Gafr Goch. But as well, sort of the only about the only other bit of Welsh you need to understand is ystlys wen y chynffon, which is it's waggling its white tail around its rump. Anyways, without further ado, join in if you want to. It's very repetitive, easy to join in. Oes gareto, oes heb ei godro, ar y creigiau gair wan mair, hen afryn crwydro. Gafer wen, I fin wen, foel gan ffon wen, ystlys wen a chynffon, wen. And then it goes on to gafer the black-haired goat, gafer lash, the grey goat, and finally gafer gok, the red-haired goat. But trying to sing gok, 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 you could easily choke yourself if you're not careful with that. Anyway, that's the Welsh. But that's your ration of Welsh folklore for today, unless anybody else has got some.
Thanks very much, Kate. So spring represents a profound metaphor for spiritual awakening. Much like the blossoming flowers and budding trees, the human spirit undergoes cycles of dormancy and renewal. And in many spiritual traditions, spring is a time to cleanse oneself, set new intentions, and embrace transformation. The season reminds us that even after the harshest winters of life, growth and vitality are not only possible, they are inevitable. Nature itself serves as a teacher during spring, symbolizing the divine forces at work. The blooming daffodils, the return of migrating birds, and the emergence of greenery teach us about cycles, impermanence, and resilience. These natural phenomena resonate deeply with spiritual teachings, encouraging us to trust in the process of life and to remain open to change. Spring carries symbolic weight in many religions. In Christianity, it aligns with Easter, commemorating the resurrection of Christ. The story of rebirth and triumph over death mirrors the natural renewal seen during spring. Similarly, Passover in Judaism celebrates liberation, renewal, and the hope of a new beginning, a sentiment echoed in the season's emergence. In pagan traditions, spring is celebrated during festivals like Beltane and Ostara, where fertility, planting, and balance take centre stage. These festivals honour the life-giving energy of the earth, the blossoming of flowers, and the abundance of nature. Such celebrations remind us of our profound connection to the earth and its cycles. Spring compels us to look inward and reflect on our own cycles of transformation. Just as trees shed all leaves in autumn, we are invited to shed past grievances, fears, and limitations. As new shoots emerge, so too can we emerge with renewed faith, courage, and love. But we tend to think of spring as bursting onto the scene with a surge of colour, light, and warmth, a symphony that relaxes and revives at the same time. However, it doesn't always happen that way. In fact, it never has. The seasons change with many false starts and setbacks. One morning you see the green shoots of snowdrops peeking through the rock-hard ground. The next morning they're covered with snow and ice or drenched with ice-cold rain. You'd think they'd take one look at the circumstances and give up, but they don't. Instead, they respond in a healthy, resilient fashion and pull through to full bloom. As with all new life, there are setbacks and unforeseen circumstances that present problems to progress, but it doesn't stop that progress. The resilience of nature overcomes. We are complex intellectual personalities, and we very often find a great deal to doubt and stumble over. We recoil from discouragement as we attempt to grow. We are sensitive to a lack of success. It's not so much the bleakness of winter so much as the promise of renewal that is withdrawn. We speak of momentum, but the hardest thing is often just to get going, to be thwarted, and then to have to try again. The lessons of spring are as demanding as the harsher lessons of winter. To have spring in our souls is to have expectation and trust combined with resolute courage and constancy. These are priceless qualities in our private lives and for the expansion of our movement. If spring can teach us these lessons, it will be a gift greater than the light and colour and warmth of spring. May the warm sun shine upon you. May the brightness of the green grass fill you with exultation. May the sweet perfume of the spring flowers scent the place where you stand. May the songs of the birds bring music to your soul, and love, fresh and bright, renew your life. So mote it be.